Today we're going to be talking about measures of spread, and this is going to be day 1 of 2. So we're going to be doing vocabulary, so you probably will need to be pausing this as you go to be able to write down definitions. Remember, these definitions are also in your workbook, so if you get lost or don't want to pause, you can always go look them up. Okay, when we're talking about measures of spread, we're talking about how we can summarize our set of data. So we can do that in a couple of different ways, and one of it is quartiles. And these definitions I'm going to give you are the short, down, and dirty ones. The long ones with all the technical words are in the book. So quartiles are values that divide the data into 4 equal parts. So if you look at the prefix quart, Q-U-A-R, you know that from quarter, you know that from quartiles, you know that from a lot of stuff, that quad, that Q-U-A, it means divide into 4. So I kind of lumped the next two together, first and third quartiles. The first quartile is the median of the lower 50% of the data. And I bet you can guess what the third quartile is. It is the median of the upper 50% of the data. So hopefully you remember that median means the middle part. And so when we're talking about it, we're talking about the middle of the lower half, and we're talking about the middle of the upper half. You will also see these written as Q1 and Q3. Those are the shorthand versions, just like we've learned. We can write shorthand, we don't speak shorthand. Q1 means the first quartile, Q3 means the third quartile. The range is the difference between the greatest and least data values. And of course, when we say difference, we do mean to subtract. We don't mean that one is green and one is blue or anything like that. We mean to subtract. That is the math meaning for the word difference. Okay, and our last one that we're going to be dealing with today is interquartile range. This is the difference between the first quartile and the third quartile. And of course, again, difference means to subtract. So these are all terms that you're probably not familiar with, and we will be doing several examples to get you used to it. So remember, interquartile range, we can abbreviate as IQR, because we really don't like spelling out interquartile range. So here we have a problem. It says determine the measures, remember more than one, of spread for the numbers of votes received for student government president. So here we have the numbers 10, 13, 20, 18, 12, 21, 2, 18, 17, 15, 10, and 14. So the first thing we need to do is arrange in order from least to greatest. So pause here and do that and double check with me. So as I'm doing this, I am carefully checking it, and there we go. And I'm marking it off as we go. There's another 10 down there. It's real easy to forget one. So please make sure you're being very careful, because if you mess one up, you will mess up your data set. And that needs to be 12. So as you're continuing to do this, you're always checking to see, yes, there can be more than one of the same numbers, or they could all be different numbers. That is okay. And then here's the next tip for you. Go back and count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. You should have the same amount of numbers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Uh-oh, which one did I forget? There we go, 21. Okay, so now we're going to find the range. We look for our largest and our smallest number and subtract. So 21 is our largest value, minus 2, our smallest value, will give us a range of 19. When we do this, to find the median, we need to find the middle, which means I already know there's 12 numbers, so my middle is right here. I need to add the numbers on either side of that line, divide by 2 to get my median. So when I do that, I have 29 divided by 2, and when I solve that out to be, my median is 14.5. When we're talking about the first and third quartiles, what we need to think about is what the numbers are showing us. So in this case, this is 50% of my numbers, as well as this. This is the first 50%, this is the second 50%. And so I'm looking for the number that is in the middle of that set. So it's like a mini set. So there are 6 numbers there. So that means that there's my middle, and I need to add the 2 numbers together and divide by 2. So here I can see that when I add those 2 numbers together and divide by 2, I get 11, which makes sense. Between 10 and 12, there is 11. So the quartile 1 is 11. Now let's find the quartile 3. All right, when we look for the quartile 3, we actually kind of like this one because 18 plus 18 and then divided by 2 will mean the quartile 3 is 18. So to find the IQR, the interquartile range, we take our first number, our quartile 3 number, which is 18, we subtract our quartile 1 number, which is 11, and when we do that, we find that our interquartile range is 7. That means that this difference between these two is 7. That's the middle spread there going on, the range of the middle spread. So this helps us analyze our numbers, especially when we're comparing different data sets and what's going on. Okay, well, here's what happens when you copy and paste. This number set is not supposed to be there. If you recognize that from the previous problem, yeah, I kind of forgot to change the number set. So I'm going to change it and tell you what it is. I need you to mark out those numbers, and I'm going to give them to you, and I'm going to go ahead and give them to you in order from least to greatest. So it's 38, 44, 65, 82, 88, and 104. So there are your numbers. So they're already in order from least to greatest. Now we need to look at our median. So when we look at our median, we have to find out how many numbers we have and where is our center point. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 numbers. Well, we know that 6 divided by 2 will give me 3. But what that means in this number set is it means my median is between those 2 numbers. So I need to first and foremost solve for the median. To do that, I'm going to add my 2 numbers together, 82, that one's on the right side, plus 65, that one's on the left side. I'm going to add those together and divide by 2. When I do that, I have 147 divided by 2, and when I do the math for that, I will get I would get 73.5, and this is our median. One of the things you're going to have to realize is we're solving for about 5 different things once we get all our information in. Yes, there's more tomorrow, so make sure you're labeling them. You need to say what these numbers are. The next thing we need to do is talk about our quartile 1 and our quartile 3. Now on this one, here is our lower 50% right here. And I think it's really easy to see on this one what number's in the middle. So our quartile 1 is 44, and our quartile 3 is 88. So even though they're easy to see and I circled them in my data set, I do need to write it and box it for my answer. Now, the next thing we need to solve is for our interquartile range. Our interquartile range, our IQR, is when we take our quartile 3 and we find the difference of it with our quartile 1. So when we do that, I'm pretty sure we can all take 44 from 88. It would give us 44. Our interquartile range is equal to 44. So here are the pieces that we need to solve. Oh, and I did forget my range. So for my range, I take my largest number, which is 104, and I subtract my smallest number, which is 38. When I do all that magic that we do of regrouping, I will have 66 as my range. Notice it's labeled, it's boxed, life is good. So when you're finding all these different pieces, you do need to label. One more problem. All right, now take a look at these numbers. They're getting a little bit larger, and notice what we haven't given you as rational numbers. It's real common to see decimals in these numbers. Remember, if you're having to add decimals, remember that your alignment, you do have to have them in alignment. These are still whole numbers, and if you remember correctly, the first thing we have to do is to put them in order from least to greatest. So go ahead and pause here and do so. All right, so I'm going to double check. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I have 10 values in my data set. Let's make sure I have them all. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All right, so your numbers should be in the same order from least to greatest. One of the reasons we like to count is it helps us find our median first and foremost. We know our median is going to be halfway, which will be between the fifth and sixth number. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it's going to be right there. When we do that, we can see that our median is 60.5. Okay, let's go ahead and do the range before I forget about it again. The range is my largest value, 71, and 56, my smallest value. And I'm going to find when I do that, that I have 15 as my range. Okay. So now we have the IQR. I'm sorry, now we have quartile 1 and quartile 3. So here is my lower 50%, and I have 5 numbers. That means that this guy right here is my quartile 1. So 58 is my quartile 1, and 64 is my quartile 3. So now I need to find the difference between the two. That allows me to find out my IQR. So 64 minus 58 will give me 6, and this is my IQR. So what this means is when we're looking at data, we can see what the middle is of our point. We can see the range of our numbers. That means that if 60.5 is our middle, the range is only 15, so it's not a huge difference in our number sets. This lets me know that the numbers, how they're clustered, 58, 64, this one's a little bit closer to the median. There's a little bit more difference up here. And this IQR lets me know the difference between these two. So in a number set of 10, that there's a difference of 6 between the middle values is not that bad. So when we're talking about these, the IQR, we're talking about these guys right here, and the difference in that spread there. And so what this does is it lets us compare different number sets, and it lets us understand what some numbers are telling us. So these measures of spread are used to describe the distribution or the spread of the data. They describe how the values of the data sets vary with a single number. The quartile is just one measure of variation. So these are just different ways that we can look at a number set and then discuss. All right, you know what to do from here.